Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I'm your host, Nick. You're listening to episode 53 of Talking Blue. I haven't talked to you guys in a little bit. I've been sick. There's been a lot going on, but I wanted to get on here and talk about all the Dodger stuff that's going on. None of it is positive. It's all bad. The Dodgers have been playing horrible. We're going to get into all that. It is currently Friday at the time of this recording, August 15th. The Dodgers will play the Padres later tonight. So, since I last talked to you guys, the Dodgers have played the Angels. A 3-game series. They were swept. Absolutely horrible times. I was going to get on here and talk after the game, or I was going to get on here and talk to you guys Thursday. And honestly, I was just going to have a ranting session. I was just going to complain, just kind of talk about how bad it's been. So none of it was going to be positive. None of it was going to be cordial. None of it was going to be good, like I said. It wasn't going to be the kind of pod if you were looking for any kind of breakdowns or anything like that. Like I said, I've been sick, unfortunately, so I've been waiting for my voice and stuff to get better so I can get on here and have the recording not sound bad. But I'm kind of just, this cold is taking forever, so I just said, what the heck, I'll just get on here. It's going to be a little bit of a different pod today. I'm not going to necessarily recap the Angels series or preview the Padres series. I'm going to just kind of talk about a lot of things. I am going to do some rambling, I guess. I'm going to kind of talk about where the Dodgers have been at, what's been going wrong, and then I'm just going to talk about what's ahead of them. If you're looking for a breakdown or stuff like that, it's not really what today's going to be. The Dodgers swept by the Angels. Just so rough to watch. The first game Yamamoto pitched, he got hit around. Angels just have owned the Dodgers all year. It's kind of crazy. The Dodgers have, against the Brewers, Astros, and Angels, haven't been able to win a game. And all games have been very similar, where the opposing team just rocks the Dodgers pitching, never comes back if they're down, goes up for early in the first, stuff like that. Super similar games, honestly. Bullpen can't hold the lead. Yamamoto got hit around in game one. It was disappointing, but the next 2 games, Dodgers could have come back and won, and it would have given you a much better feeling. Can't go into Anaheim and lose the series, and they got swept. Should be embarrassed, honestly. Everyone's been dogging the Dodgers, honestly. I mean, everybody's talked about how the Dodgers had a 9-game lead since early July, and ever since then, the Dodgers have been horrible. The Padres have been hot, and here we are. The Padres have caught them. They have a 1-game lead on the Dodgers. One thing I put out on my Twitter the other day, it's kind of a little bit of a breakdown. I actually did this going into the All-Star break, but it's a little bit of a breakdown of the Dodgers' hot and cold streaks throughout the year so far. Like I said, I did this before the All-Star break. We all know the Dodgers started the year 8-0. So 8 games, 8 wins. From April 4th to May 8th, so a little bit over a month, they went 17-13, which is pretty solid. A couple games above 500. When you add that with the 8-0 stretch, that they had a record of 25-13, one of the best records in the game, a little bit over a month into the year. From May 9th to June 7th, they went 13-14. So that was their first bad stretch of baseball. So that gave them a record of 38-27. So they're 11 games over 500. Again, still pretty good record really early into the year. Then from June 8th till July 3rd, 18-5. That was their best stretch of baseball throughout the year. 18-5. And that gave them a record of 56-32, which at the time was the best record in baseball. They had the best offense in the game. They were still waiting for guys to come back and get healthy, but best record in the game, and they had a 9-game lead. And it's kind of crazy what has happened since then, because it doesn't feel that long ago. I can remember Dodgers had just swept the White Sox. Clayton Kershaw just got his 3,000th strikeout. Max Muncy had just gotten injured. Ever since then, it has been such a struggle. They immediately got swept by the Astros. Then they got swept by the Brewers. So they had lost, I think they ended up losing 7 straight or something like that at the time. From 4th of July to August 13th, which was the last game they played against the Angels, 12-21. That gives them a record of 68-53. That is where they currently stand. 41 games remain in the regular season. I've watched a lot of Dodgers baseball in my life. I kind of understand what to expect going into a season. There's going to be a lot of cold stretches, a lot of hot stretches, and as much as organizations, players, or coaches like to say, you can't get too high, you can't get too low throughout the regular season, which is very true, and I understand why that's a common saying. It's very true. I just read to you those hot streaks. Dodgers started off the season hot, then they were kind of 500, got hot again. Now they've played way below 500 for like 33 games now. It's not an excuse, but it is definitely like a reason, and it's something that makes a lot of sense that throughout the regular season you just sometimes you just struggle. It happens. There's injuries and stuff like that. But again, it is no excuse. Couldn't go into Anaheim and lose the series. Instead, you got swept. If they would have at least won that last game, at least you go into this weekend against the Padres and you're tied. So if you win the series, you say you win 2 out of 3, then you go up 2 games on the Padres. If you sweep the Padres, obviously you go up 3. What's really unfortunate is now because you got swept and now you're going into the series down 1, if you win 2 out of 3, you'll just be back to tied. As Dodger fans, we would all take 2 out of 3, and we would be very happy with that. But you put yourself in a spot where you're behind the Padres. You got to get hot. It just seems like there are times that they have gone through these stretches where it's like it does not matter. They are not going to win a game. The 2 games that they lost Tuesday and Wednesday were just so identical where they just clearly weren't. They just felt like they could not hold a lead. Alex Vesia blew the save on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, it was, a mix of Justin Robleski and then Eduardo Henriquez. Even when it felt like guys weren't even pitching that bad, like Henriquez was throwing 103 and somehow, Logan O'Hoppe connected on a fastball and just hit it up the middle, gives the Angels the lead. There's a lot of talk about a lot of the deadline moves or lack thereof. Michael Conforto, I understand there's why a lot of people would be upset. Obviously, one thing we didn't talk about is Brock Stewart ended up getting injured. One of the guys they traded for at the deadline, and obviously there were reports when that deal was going on that there was a holdup because of his medicals. That doesn't look great now. Dodgers have had so many injuries this year. You traded for a guy who had medical issues, and right away he has shoulder inflammation. Alex Call, one of the guys that you acquired, has been pretty awful so far. His at-bats look really bad so far. And I think he'll be an okay Dodger, but so far he hasn't done anything. Guys got tricked into thinking Michael Conforto was going to turn it around because he played well before the trade deadline, and you got completely fooled, and he's been horrible since then. And now you're stuck in a position where you're just going to keep playing and riding it out. There's been a lot of talk about Michael Conforto. I don't exactly remember what I was saying, but my feeling for the most part was I would have not kept Conforto. I didn't really care about how he was playing better. I just never really liked his at-bats, but the Dodgers elected to keep him, and now here we are. So we'll see what happens there. Some people think he might get DFA'd. I'd be pretty surprised if the Dodgers DFA'd him, but it's a chance. They DFA'd Jason Hayward last year around this time, so it's possible they could DFA him. I would, if they DFA'd him. The only thing is I'm not really sure, if they DFA him, I don't really know how they would replace him, especially with some of the injuries they have right now. So, it's possible that Tommy Edman comes back, they could DFA him, and then just put, Tommy Edman in center. But I don't really see that happening. I just hope he continues to play better. And if it just keeps getting bad, they'll just keep him on the bench as like a bench bat or something like that. This has been a miserable stretch. They're either getting swept or they're just winning one game out of the series. I mean, think about it. When this started, they got swept by the Astros, so you didn't even win a game. They got destroyed. San Francisco to close out the first half did somehow win 2 out of 3. It was like a miracle. Came out of the break, swept again by the Brewers. Then they won 2 out of 3 against the Twins. Again, another game where they had to come back late. It was a shocker that they won. Went to Boston, could have won 2 out of 3, lost 2 out of 3. Went to the Cincinnati, actually played decent, won 2 out of 3. And then again, won 2 out of 3 against the Rays. That Cardinals series, lost 2 out of 3. Again, just kind of blowing games late. And then played pretty well against the Blue Jays last weekend, and that's when you thought it was going to turn around. Here we are again, swept by the Angels. Again, just the offense actually wasn't too bad in this series. It's just the pitching. We had talked about how much better the starting pitching had been. Yamamoto got destroyed on the first game against the Angels. Emmett Sheehan didn't pitch good against the Angels as well. He kind of kept them in the game, but he gave up 4 or 5 earned runs. And then Shohei pitched Wednesday, and even though the stuff was great and he was getting strikeouts, the Angels put up 4 earned runs on him. Right now, again, they're just not able to put together a full game, where lately the offense has looked a lot better. The pitching has gone back to kind of giving up leads. And then the bullpen as well is just rough right now. So a miserable stretch for the Dodgers. It sucked, honestly, for the last month and a half to have to get on here so often, talk about how bad they've been. But I'm trying to give it to you guys straight and just be honest. I'm a Dodger fan, but I call it like I see it. I'm not a homer. They've been miserable. A lot of guys have underperformed. And right now, with the way they're playing, how can anyone see or think that they have a chance at repeating? I don't see them like falling out of a playoff spot. I think that'd be hard to, I don't think that would happen. But right now they're in the wild card series, and they're not the higher seed. They're the 5th seed, I think. So right now you'd be looking at, I think it would be a playoff series against the Cubs if it ended today. With the way they're playing right now, there's just no chance they're going to win a World Series. They can't hold a lead with the pen. The starting pitching is very hit or miss. And then the offense will go cold at times. I'm starting to believe the offense is looking much better. One of the few positives, Mookie Betts has been very good as of late. 8-game hitting streak, I think it is. He's got a batting average of like .333 in his last 8 games. OPS in the mid or high 800s, so he's looked a lot better. Shohei keeps hitting homers. Max Muncy's been great off the IL, although one scary little note is that Max Muncy didn't play on Wednesday because he supposedly had soreness in his side, which is what kept Muncy out in 2024. Don't know if it's an oblique or a rib or something. They've said it's not like they think they caught it early, and it's, I think he'll be okay, but that's scary because we saw how bad the offense was when Max Muncy was just out of the lineup. So there's so much going on right now. Injuries, a lot of the bullpen guys, Kirby Yates, Michael Kopech, Roki Sasaki just made a rehab start. That didn't look too great. There still is a chance the bullpen can improve because some guys coming back. I think Vesia and Trinan, those guys are going to pitch better. Eduardo Henriquez actually looks like he could be really helpful for the Dodgers. I didn't realize how he's kind of added some pitches. And, now he has a cutter now and a 2-seamer to go along with that electric fastball. I'll kind of close up the ranting on what's happened the last few months. They've been horrible. If they keep playing like this, they're not going anywhere in the postseason. It'll be an early exit, much like 2022, 2023. What I will transition to is what's going to happen now. What will happen next? The Dodgers will play the Padres. It's kind of funny, like I've said, how similar this season is to the previous season. And it's just funny how these two teams, the Dodgers and the Padres, just the rivalry and how it's continued to play out. Here they are. The Padres just took a lead in the division, and now they're going to play this weekend. They're going to play 6 times in the next 10 days. It's going to be nervous times, fun times, but nervous times. So the one positive, the Dodgers have played the Padres well this year. 5-2 so far in their 7 games that they've played. Dodgers took 2 out of 3 the first time they played in San Diego. Then they played a 4-game series in LA, and the Dodgers won the first 3. So they played well against the Padres. I actually saw a thing on Twitter that said it was a list of the best records in division, and the Dodgers were the best. So they've played well in the division this year. That's going to help. Last year was not the case. The Dodgers won the division, but they didn't have a winning record against the Padres, and they didn't have good records against other teams, and that can hurt you if you end up tying the division. Then it goes by head-to-head record. Last year, if the Dodgers and Padres would have tied, the Dodgers would have not won the division. So right now, if the Dodgers can continue to play well against the Padres, that's definitely going to help them. So I wanted to read to you guys something I came up with, and I'm going to put this on X as well. I've talked about how this season and last season, very identical seasons. The Dodgers have played really bad as of late, so the records are not identical, but they're very similar. On August 15th, 2024, which is 1 year ago today, the Dodgers were 71-50. They had a 2-game lead over the Padres. Over their remaining 41 games, they would go 27-14. That's really good. 27-14 over their final 41 games to win the division. They ended up winning the division in the final week of the season. If you guys remember, they played the Padres at home. Padres actually came into LA, took game 1. Remember, they turned that triple play to end the game. I'm still pissed about that play, but that ended up closing the division lead to 1 or 2 games, I think it was. Dodgers went on to win the next 2 games. They ended up putting some runs against Dylan Cease. If you remember, Will Smith hit a big home run off Joe Musgrove, Shohei. That was when Shohei started that crazy runners in scoring position streak, and the Dodgers took the remaining 2 games, won the division, and then they went into the weekend. Division winners didn't have to worry about anything like that. A year ago today, they were 71-50. Today, August 15th, they are 68-53. So they had 3 less wins. They have exactly 41 games to play, just like they did last year. They are now, obviously, 1 game behind the Padres. So they're in a similar situation. Obviously, you would have liked to have them be 1 game ahead, like they were a year ago, or 2 games ahead. You have 41 games to go and win the division. This is your last chance at a hot streak to, like I said, win the division. I don't think they need to go 27-14 like they did last year, but I think that if they could go 24-17, and just play really good, I think that'll get them the division. 6 games in the next 10 days against the Padres, which is a really good thing, or it could be a really bad thing. The Dodgers play the Rockies after this series. If they're able to win 2 out of 3 against the Padres, then you play the Rockies for 4. Now, obviously, with how bad the Dodgers have played, nothing is a given. Winning a series against the Rockies is not a given, but you'd have to think they would definitely win, 3 out of 4. And if they just play that up to their capability, they could sweep the Rockies. If you can take 2 out of 3 from the Padres and then do that, you're looking really good going into that next weekend series, which will obviously also be against the Padres. I'm already starting to get nervous. We're like 10 hours away from first pitch at the time of recording this, and I already know I'm going to be really nervous. It's really unfortunate they played this horrible, and especially that they couldn't just win a game against the Angels and at least go into this weekend series just at least tied. I mean, if they win 2 out of 3 in Anaheim, then you go into the series with a 1-game lead. Then if you win 2 out of 3, then you could, actually add to that. The thing that you get to play the Padres is you don't have to do any scoreboard watching. The annoying thing about scoreboard watching is that when you actually win a game and then you go and check the scoreboard, you need another team to beat the team you're playing or the team that you're, scoreboard watching. There is nothing in your control. If you guys remember last year, the way the playoffs ended, or the regular season, it was the Braves, the Mets, and the Diamondbacks who were all fighting for the last 2 spots. And the way that it shook out was that the Mets and the Braves had to play a doubleheader. The scenario was if the 2 teams split each game, then they would both be in. If one team won both games, then that team would be in, and then the Diamondbacks would be the other wild card team. So the Diamondbacks had to sit and watch two teams play in order for them to possibly get in. That's the worst spot to be in if you're a team, because nothing's in your control. You can't go out there and play. You have to literally just sit there and watch and hope something happens. The Dodgers, right now, get to play the Padres. So if you beat the Padres, then the division will be tied again. Kind of have to get tunnel vision, honestly. There's 41 games left. You have no chance. You have no room for error. You just have to go out and get it done. 41 games. I think this is where it will turn around for the Dodgers. I truly believe we will look back at this at the beginning of a nice hot streak, and we'll look back and say, post Angels sweep, at the beginning of that series, the Dodgers did this, just like they did last year. Makes me a little confident that with 40 games left last year, they were able to go on a hot streak. Now, again, they were never trailing the Padres, so we will see what do the Dodgers look like trailing a team. It looks like the pitching matchups will be Kershaw, Snell, Glasnow for the Dodgers. It was supposed to be Michael King going tonight against Kershaw. He was scratched, and they recalled Randy Vasquez. I don't know if he's going to be the one pitching, but he's who they recalled. So maybe they'll go with a bullpen game or something. Then against Snell, it'll be Dylan Cease. And then against Glasnow, it will be Yu Darvish. So the one thing the Padres actually don't have this year is like an elite starting rotation. Now, it's not bad by any means, but Dylan Cease hasn't been the same this year. I think he's pitched really good as of late, but he has not pitched the same this year. Yu Darvish, since coming off the IL, has really struggled, and a couple of the other guys that they haven't been as well. Really, their only good starter so far has been Nick Pivetta, who the Dodgers aren't going to see in this series. But everyone does know the Padres have an elite bullpen. It's the best in baseball, and it's not even close. They have such a good bullpen. So the key for the Dodgers to this series will be put up runs against the starters. Because if you fall behind, and they get into that bullpen, it's going to be as close to game over as you can get. Because they're going to be able to bring out, Morihone, Jason Adam, Robert Suarez, Mason Miller. They have other guys too who are super nasty, Jeremiah Estrada. So they can basically, from the fifth inning on, bring in a bunch of closers who throw hard, who have nasty off-speed stuff. He's going to be whoever you face Friday. If it's Randy Vasquez, you got to put up runs against him. When you face Dylan Cease, you got to put up runs against him. I don't love, Dylan Cease, because he throws so hard and has nasty stuff, is kind of like hit or miss. He's either going to strike out 11 or he's going to give up 6. As of late, the Dodgers have hit him very well. They hit him well in the postseason last year. Played him in LA this year. They put up a lot of runs against him as well. And he hasn't been good that year, so I'm confident in that. Now, Yu Darvish is interesting. He's been bad so far this year, but he generally pitches pretty well against the Dodgers. He just mixes up his pitches so well. He just throws like slow curveballs, slider, sweeper, splitter, cutter, sinker. He just throws everything. And it kind of makes it hard on the Dodgers. But he hasn't been so good so far this year. Maybe he's getting old. So the Dodgers will have the advantage in terms of the starting pitching in this series. Kershaw, I mentioned it last week against the Blue Jays. I was a little nervous because they don't strike out. The Padres are similar to the Blue Jays with their offense. They don't strike out. They put the ball in play. So that makes me a little nervous for Kershaw that the Padres are going to just put the ball in play and kind of put runs against him easily. We'll see. He was able to figure it out last week against the Blue Jays. Able to get the Blue Jays to ground into some double plays, some weak contact, stuff like that. So Kershaw's going to need to do that again. I'm confident Snell is going to pitch well against them, and as well as Tyler Glasnow. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Thank you guys for listening to me just ramble on about this. I'm sorry I haven't been able to post as much lately. Like I said, I've been sick, so I would have liked to preview that Angels series, and I would have liked to do a real preview for this Padres series. But since I wasn't able to do the recap and stuff, I thought I would kind of just put it all together. That's all. I will leave you guys with that. 41 games to go. We'll see how the playoffs, standings and all that kind of come together. The Brewers have been so hot as of late. I've kind of put it out of my mind that the Dodgers could be the 1 seed. At this point, you're just trying to win the division. Just want to be one of the top 2 seeds. They're still pretty close to the Phillies in terms of records. So, again, if they could get hot, they probably won't be the 1 seed this year like they normally are, but they could definitely be the 2 seed still. So, confident in the Dodgers. If you were to ask me today, objectively, who do you think will win the division? I still think it's going to be the Dodgers. But it starts with this series and these upcoming 6 out of 10 games. If you don't win these 6 out of 10 games, you're probably not winning the division, if we're being honest. It's not impossible. They could lose 2 out of 3 and then, sweep the Rockies, and who knows what happens with the Padres, whoever they're playing next week. But because the Dodgers do have a pretty favorable schedule going forward, the best way you can get back and win the division is take care of the Padres this weekend. Padres are a super cocky team, especially their fans. I'm not going to lie. I really don't like the Padres fans. Padre fans are like, they have never done anything in their history, and like they get into first place, and now they're like, they think they won the World Series. I would love nothing more than the Dodgers to be able to come back and win the division and look back at this time period in mid-August, how crazy it was and how funny it was that the Padres thought they had the division locked up. So 41 games to go, Dodgers. It's time to turn it around. It's time to get hot. It starts this weekend with the Padres. You win 2 out of 3. You put yourself in a good spot going into Colorado next week. So, as always, you guys can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick. You'll see me tweeting throughout these games, well as competitive dash week 87-15 on Reddit. So thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back Sunday to recap this series. Hopefully it's a Dodgers win and a successful series. Thank you guys for listening.